Hey, church, Pastor Raphael right here. I am sitting with my friend Paul Cary. You got to hear from him on Sunday. He's one of the missionaries that we support. Welcome back, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, so we've been supporting Paul. He's been involved in church planting and all that. So here's what I just want us to do today. I just want us to kind of just give us a little bit of a good picture of like past, and then probably I'll give you some questions in there, and then like we'll look at presently what you're doing, and then future as well, because I know that God is doing just amazing things, and there are things you're being invited into, and as we've partnered with you, as we continue to partner, this would really just kind of give the church just a very good picture of what's going on. So just walk us through like the past couple of years, what's been happening, and then we'll keep going. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So thank you first off so much for your support and for praying for me over the past few years. It's been so good to see God at work in my life and in Romania and the church there.
Yeah.
I went to Romania 2 years ago.
Okay.
Almost 2 years exactly. Yeah. And the goal was to partner with a church there, the Hungarian Reformed Church, which was planting an English-speaking service to reach out to the internationals in Cluj and Nabucco, Romania.
Yeah.
And I was focused on helping with that church plant, as well as supporting one of the evangelists, the Hungarian evangelist named Horváth Levente.
Okay.
And he had founded a addiction recovery ministry called Bonus Pastor.
Oh, wow.
Which was Latin for good shepherd, so it was nothing about adding more pastors. But and he needed help with English admin and things like that. And
okay.
I have a detail-oriented mind and was well-suited for helping him. So I went with that goal 2 years to make sure it was a good long-term fit, and then we would reassess. And I went and I really enjoyed working in the church there. The church was led by an Irish pastor named Steve Kennedy. He had been invited to lead that congregation, and I was coming in just to support that work and the vision for reaching out to the internationals and envisioning mission for the Hungarian Reformed Church.
Yeah.
It was in Romania, but it was Hungarian. Transylvania is one of those interesting places in the world that has a long history of war and being owned or governed by different powers. And so it used to be Hungarian, but it's now part of Romania since World War I believe.
Yeah.
But there's a large Hungarian minority still in the country.
Yeah. So what were some of the highlights of what you saw God do within these last 2 years?
Yeah. So I saw God working through that church to grow community. There was a lot of different people from different backgrounds, mostly American or American Romanian couples who came to it.
Okay.
As well as some Germans and some other. There was a Lebanese guy. It was really cool to get to know him and hear about his testimony, and sort of building those relationships across different cultures and ethnicities was wonderful. It was also really challenging. It sort of turned out that the Hungarian leadership had a different vision and idea for what the church should do than the Irish pastor that they had invited to lead. And it hadn't been clearly communicated. So it did wind up coming to the decision about a year or 6 months ago that he needed to step back because he didn't share their vision.
Okay.
And they didn't have anyone sort of on board to replace him, and it sort of shut down.
Oh, man.
So there was a lot of hardship with that. But it was a time that also God used to help all those involved in it to really think through, whose ministry is this? Is this our thing that we're doing, or are we actually serving God in this? Are we, what is our vision? What is our mission? And my team, gave us a lot of unity, saying, okay, we can work with this as long as there is that clear vision of what the partnerships look like, and we want to have those conversations. And there was a lot of team unity on it, but the Hungarian church was being sort of led in a different direction for their ministries, and so it never picked back up.
Yeah. And you're also just like there's a sense in which missions, anytime you are involved in mission, there's difficulty that comes there. There's what God is doing. But then there's like all these obstacles that come.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that probably like, I've read so many like missionary biographies, and like when you finally are on the ground, that's when you're like, oh, this is the other side of missions. That like it's so, you know, this is the difficulty part of like where you've seen people from every nation, every tribe, every tongue coming in, and then you're facilitating community for them, and just seeing the gospel begin to take root. Yeah. But then you also get to see the reality of the warfare aspect of actually like the division aspect of that. And we all
have something that we feel comfortable doing, and realize, oh, that's my cultural background or something like that. Where, okay, I need to have this with open hands and be willing to change my way of doing things as long as I'm, keeping my eyes focused on God, and we have that in common.
Yeah. That's awesome. So how did you feel like how did you feel God sustain you guys through that? Because like you were one of the people that had like, I mean, you left your home to go and give your life to this, and to us usually that would look like it, because we're very like production oriented, and like it feels as if like that's nothing, like, oh man, like you put in so much work, and then and you come out of there feeling like, okay, there's not much that happened, or it's all come to nothing. But yet in God's kingdom, and like there's no wasted time, there's no wasted season, there's no so how have you been able so number one, how did you feel God sustain you? And then number two, when you look back, where are you seeing God's sovereign hand in there? And like, you see what I mean? How have you processed that?
Yeah. So the way I've seen God sustaining me through it is really through prayer and the prayers of His people praying for me. Yeah. I had, spent a lot of time in prayer personally, and then had churches and supporters and mentors reaching out and spending time with me on the phone over Zoom, hearing about it, praying together. And then doing that in the local community. Steve, the pastor that I mentioned, he and I became really good friends, and we would get together regularly to just sit down and talk through what's going on and pray together. And so prayer was huge in sustaining through that. Yeah. And then what was the second part?
And I was just saying also, like, so when you look at it in retrospect and now, like where are you seeing even God's sovereign hand there? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
because a lot of it is trusting that God is at work, even though I don't see specific things. But there is a lot of that, trusting that God is faithful to His promises, that He is a loving Heavenly Father who is at work in my heart and the hearts of these people, even though I may not see it. So there's a lot of that that's still going on. It's like I'm trusting God is sovereign in that situation, and it will be bearing fruit in years to come. During that time, I shared this in a video update a couple months ago, that a pastor friend there at a Romanian church was sharing with me that he had a friendship with this atheist for about 10 years. And after 10 years, the guy texted him and said, I came to church the other week and I've been having all these questions, and it's starting to make sense. It's starting to click. I think I'm a Christian now. And, it can take 10, 20 years of building relationships to see fruit like that come. And so being there for just a short time, it's like, okay, I'm watering seeds, or maybe I'm planting seeds, and others will be coming to collect the harvest. And that's good. Just real growing in me of, I need to trust God with my life, with what's next, as well as with what's going forward, with what's been happening.
No, that's good. So. That's now at least like, thank you for sharing that, because that's the beauty of missions, where we tend to want to hear a ton of like success stories, 1,000 people got saved, this is what happened. But yet actually I think the exponential work of missions is what we didn't see. Like it exists more on the mystery plane, rather than in the you see what I mean, that in the tangible plane of things. And with that said, there's always just that thing of like, okay, you're gonna have to trust the Lord, and then trust the Lord that the gospel that was sown for the past 2 years in the lives of all these people, that some of them are probably like they still are in church, but they're in different places. It's only eternity that's gonna open our eyes to seeing like what has happened, and this is what God was doing to connect you with this Albanian person, and then but you will never know until eternity to see. So that's good that at least you're trusting the Lord with that. So present, what is happening, and then we're gonna jump into like what's happening, because I think present and future are kind of almost infused together.
They're going very closely together. Right
so
now.
Would you give us a picture of that as we continue to just support you?
So in October-November timeframe, it became really clear that Romania was just going to be a 2-year placement, and as that decision was being sort of come to by myself and Serge, and my team leader there, sending agency Serge, I had emailed out saying, hey, pray for me. May's the end of my 2-year assignment.
I remember that.
Pray for what's coming up next. And I got a reply to that email from a pastor in Scotland saying, I don't know if God's calling you to stay in Romania or if you're looking for somewhere else where he might be calling you next. But I could sure use your help. And I'd worked with this pastor, with Neil McMillan, when I was a student in Edinburgh. And so he told me, I remember working with you. I know we work well together. I know we've worked through how to work together. And he also said, I've seen you do a lot of transitions in the past few years. I'd been in Scotland for 4 years, and then in Philadelphia for 2, and then in Romania for 2 years. And he's like, he told me, if you could come back here, it would be returning to something that's familiar. And it's not jumping in and restarting relationships from scratch and all that. And it's like, that would be a real blessing.
That's good.
So at the moment, I'm working through how to do that transition.
Okay.
My sending agency, Serge, with them for the summer, but the work they do in Scotland, they don't do this type of partnership with churches there.
Okay.
They have a different philosophy. And so I've been looking at joining Mission to the World, MTW.
MTW.
And this is exactly what they do there. They partner with local churches to support them with resources, whether that's human or other resources. And so I've been talking with them, and just last weekend they had their readiness evaluation, which is where they sort of stress test you to make sure you're ready to go to the mission field. And it's what they do for all their missionaries. And even though I'm transferring in, they had me.
They assess you there.
And I got the green light.
That's awesome.
They just shared with folks on Sunday that on the day before, on Saturday, I got the call saying,
you're good to
go. And so right now I'm still doing the work of, okay, I'm good to go. How soon can I set up a support account? Because their normal process, it would be 3 to 4 months before the next step. And so I'm sort of pushing the door to, hey, let's move this a bit quicker if we can. And so that's where I'm at right now, is that preparation, that looking to, what does it mean to join MTW? How much support will I need to raise? That's still an unanswered question. I have a rough estimate that it's about double what I'm currently raising, so there will be some work to do. But those questions will be answered over the next couple of weeks.
That's good. That's awesome. I'm excited for at least like you spend some time in Scotland, and really like and if you guys don't know this, Europe just needs gospel saturation again.
It does.
Yes. And this is actually like where we get to actually like really be very to help in actually seeing the gospel take root again. And I'm glad at least like you've got this pastor that you're going back to, and then you guys will be partnering together. And then you're partnering together and you're assisting him, and you're seeing the gospel being planted there. And obviously like the prayer is that like churches will be planted out of there, and we'll see gospel work there.
And that's one of the big things he saw a need of is this church that he's a pastor of was planted about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And Neil is one of the leading pastors in the Free Church, the denomination there, for church planting.
Oh, okay.
And so he
Awesome.
has set up a lot of the leadership training for church planting, worked across denominations to plant churches in Scotland.
Yeah.
And they're in the process of planting a church out of their congregation right now.
Nice. Yeah.
As well as starting a weekly Spanish service.
Yeah.
So it's, even though it's in Scotland, it is quite cross-cultural.
Very, yeah.
And so they have, their goal by the end of this year is actually to have weekly services at the Mother Church at Cornerstone, weekly Spanish services with the Spanish congregation, and weekly services at the church plant.
Okay.
So
they
have 3 pastors on staff and the music leader, and they're feeling a bit stretched thin to cover all that.
Yeah, and that's where you come in, because one of the things I really have just admired about you as this is knowing your place, like in terms of how God has gifted you, wired you, like, and you're like the details guy. You're like, and a lot of that stuff is like we never see that as important, but yet it is so crucial in the church. Which is what, like, we just came out of Nehemiah, and watching Nehemiah becoming this, like, where even in the book, there's a lot of administrators that are highlighted, and we get to see the success of God's work, and is done through God gifting, through the power of the Spirit, gifting people to come and play a certain role. And so you like to be behind the scenes.
I do, yeah.
But yet at the same time, like, that's what's needed the most.
Yeah.
And so that's also just like one of the reasons why, like, as the church, like, we want to even continue to come behind you and support you, because you also represent quite a lot of people within the church. We're saying that, like, missionaries don't have to always be the main guy up front. It could also just be someone who's also coming and serving, like, let's say in a deacon role, and you're helping move the mission forward in that way. So thank you so much for your faithfulness towards this, and not only that, like, I know that the mission bug has stayed within the Cary family.
It has, yes.
And because your sister, your mother and your father, most of your family has been in missions, but yet you've really seen that as it's not only just because of family, but it's also because of the glory of God that's driving you. So as we end, what are just a couple of things that you can also just, like, if we can continue to support Paul, what are some of those things?
You know, prayer is always something that missionaries, and myself included, really need. Talking to God, sharing with God about our needs, and just keeping us in prayer. That's a huge thing. And then, you know, reaching out is so encouraging. Getting emails or text messages just with a word of encouragement is huge. It lifts the spirits and reminds me, you know, that I'm not doing this alone, that this is the body of Christ serving the Lord together. And that's just a really good thing to do. Financially is another big one. As I said, I'll need to double my support account. Scotland is so much more expensive to live than Romania was, and MTW cares well for their missionaries, and so that requires a large support account. And so financially is another one. And, you know, at this time, in the transition time, I'll be in the Williamsport area for a couple months, and then I'll be home based here as well as I plan trips around. It can be a somewhat lonely time, and so friendship is another huge thing. If there's men's groups, you know, I may not be in the area, but the invitation is always welcome.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we definitely will take advantage of that. Just spending more time with you, and then also, so church. We're so grateful Paul is here, and not only that, you know, just God is going to be using him in just a mighty ways, and the fact that we're partnering with him, we just want to be very encouraged continually by what God is doing. So let's make sure we connect with Paul as we see him here. But not only that, let's also consider just maybe taking some time to sit down with him to see how we can also be of support. Once again, we always say, I'm praying for you, but like prayer really does help a lot. And not only that, like let's be sacrificial in giving and supporting him as he continues to obey God this way. So Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're looking forward to seeing what God is going to be doing with you and in you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.